Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're going into part 5 now. Part 5. So, we left off right here on the last part 4. Okay, with the Congress, the Second Eugenics Congress. So, this is just some posters from the British Eugenics Society. Okay, from the 1920s. And as you can see, only healthy seed must be sown. Check the seeds of hereditary disease and unfitness by eugenics. Release the stranglehold of hereditary disease and unfitness. Okay? It's masqueraded as being in the good of human beings. This is good for us. Again, it goes back to the Superman thought of human beings can become God. We can become a super refined being, right? So this is somebody who was against it all. G.K. Chesterton. In 1922, he released his work. So, significant anti-eugenic essays also circulated, the most famous of which is Eugenics and Other Evils, an argument against scientifically organized state. Interesting how he categorizes it as a scientifically organized state, because the scientific dictatorship is what they'd be setting up. I need to do a separate lecture on the scientific dictatorship. All right, written by G.K. Chesterton. Chesterton was an English writer and a Christian apologist, like C.S. Lewis. There exists today, this is him, there exists today a scheme of action, a school of thought, called for convenience eugenics, and that it ought to be destroyed. I propose to prove in the pages that follow. I know what it means by very different things to different people, but that is only because evil always takes advantage of ambiguity. Very interesting, actually. And eugenics itself, in large quantities or small, coming quickly or coming slowly, urged from good motives or bad, applied to 1,000 people or applied to 3, eugenics itself is a thing no more to be bargained about than poisoning. All right? There were some other people who released some works too. I didn't put them all in here. Let's keep going. Harry Laughlin publishes his Remember, Harry Laughlin is the one who was setting up the displays for those congresses. Harry Laughlin publishes Eugenical Sterilization in the United States. It was influential not only in the United States, but also Germany, where the 1933 sterilization laws were also modeled after Laughlin's work in this volume. All right. Laughlin was superintendent of the Eugenics Record Office at Cold Spring Harbor in New York from 1910 to 1921. He also served as the eugenics expert for the Committee on Immigration and Naturalizations and assisted Charles B. Davenport in publishing the ERO's Eugenical News to promote the activities of the office. This is a major work right here, all right? In 1920, he approached the National Committee on Mental Hygiene to review the manuscript, and also the Bureau of Social Hygiene to publish the text. In 1922, he compiled and published his report. This model law went on to influence the enactment of sterilization laws in 18 U.S. states. Laughlin identified numerous socially inadequate persons for sterilization, including the feeble-minded, the insane, criminals, epileptics, alcoholics, the blind, the deaf, and the deformed. Laughlin's model law also provided the basis for Germany's 1933 law for the prevention of hereditarily diseased offspring. Okay? As you can see, you have groundwork for what Hitler himself would take and start implementing himself over in Germany. Didn't start in Germany. 1922, R.G. Reed was the Minister of Health and Municipalities under the United Farmers of Alberta. In 1922, Reed declared that the government was in favor of sterilization of those citizens deemed mentally defective. However, the government was waiting for public opinion to catch up. It would take 6 more years before the government would develop formal sterilization legislation. All right? They had to inject some more propaganda before the people would bend over and take it. In other words. All right, 1923. The great British biologist and science popularizer J.B.S. Haldane, Daedalus, or Science in the Future. The Today and Tomorrow series of popular books began a decade-long tradition of describing the current state of science, technology, and/or society, and forecasting a mostly progressive future. This series of pocketbooks, described as pamphlets by London publisher Kegan Paul, Trench and Trubner, simultaneously published in New York by E.P. Dutton, explored these controversies, including eugenics. Haldane's greatest scientific prestige arose from being one of the scientists that developed a modern evolutionary synthesis, unifying Mendelian genetics, biometrics, and Darwinian evolution. But it was his talent as a prolific popularizer of science and his later overt support for Stalin's USSR that made him famous among the general public. Most of the titles for the individual volumes evoked apropos classical Greek or Roman heroes and other mythological figures like Daedalus or Icarus, tying in their Greek culture to this movement. All right? Most of the titles for the individual volumes evoked apropos classical Greek or Roman heroes and other mythological figures like Daedalus or Icarus, which was the tail end of this paragraph, right? So there it is. This book over here is a book written by Gary, showing you the ties to the occult with this type of concepts. All right? We're going back to Greece. As always, the legislature of Delaware passes an act to provide for the sterilization of certain defectives. Appoint a physician and external medical expert. These 2 examiners, in conjunction with the superintendent of the institution, were to examine individuals thought to be at risk of reproducing people with undesirable traits. The results of this legislation were immediately felt. With the first 10 years of this legislation enactment, some 44 people were sterilized. Approximately 945 were sterilized while this legislation was active, ranking Delaware 13th for documented sterilizations in the United States. 23. Montana passes their bullshit. Was to allow for the legal sterilizations of people with undesirable traits living in state institutions. The legislation established a state board of eugenics, which consisted of a physician from each state institution and 2 members from the state medical association. Upon recommendation from the chief physicians of the state institutions, the board could approve sterilization operations. However, if consent was not given, then sterilization could still occur, provided that the board, upon review, deemed the procedure necessary. Legislation also stipulated that neither the board nor physicians performing the sterilizations could be held legally responsible. You see? They're giving discretion to the state again, and they're using the state legislature to promote this agenda. The same thing they're doing with vaccines right now. Going through these same legislatures and trying to promote their eugenics through vaccines. All right? They're doing it the same way. Last time around, they hit 31 states. I really hope they do less than that with this vaccine thing. This eugenics shit is real. June 30th, 1923. Chinese Immigration Act. The aim of this act was to prevent Chinese immigration to Canada, specifically through British Columbia. Among those prohibited, idiots, the feeble-minded, epileptics, psychopathic persons, the insane, alcoholics, criminals, prostitutes, and the mentality or physically defective. Now, This is to show you that they don't mind passing laws against non-Nordics and non-Caucasians, all right? And when you see this word feeble-minded, many times that was just straight up code for black folks or dark folks, all right? Hence the 3/5 of a human being concept, feeble-minded, okay? Just think about evolution from the sense of you got evolution, which was natural selection leading up to now, and now we need forced to take us to the next level, right? October 23rd, the Provincial Training School opened in October of 1923, refurbished by the Alberta government, and was designed to be a residential institution. Residential institution for the training of people deemed mentally defective. When the Sexual Sterilization Act was passed in 28, the institution became a major feeder institution to the Eugenics Board. There's a picture of it. The Insanity Act of 1907 in the province of Alberta, Canada is renamed the Mental Disease Act. The words insane and insanity are essentially wiped out. The words detained as insane are replaced by detained in a hospital. The words asylum for the insane or insane asylum and asylum are all replaced by hospital. You see, this is the trick. It's propaganda when you're changing the words. You're trying to trick people, all right? Otherwise, why would you need to change the word once a word has already been established? How come we don't change the words? How come we don't change grass? We got green grass and brown grass outside, right? Why don't we just keep on changing what grass means every 10 years? Because there's no need for it. All right? Icarus, or The Future of Science, by the renowned philosopher Bertrand Russell, who I've already quoted as saying that education should stamp out desire to be free, all right? A socialist, political activist, pacifist, and social critic, winning the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1950 for his philosophical works and activism. In Icarus, Russell did not so much dispute or disagree with Haldane's various predictions of future scientific technological developments. Russell argues that modern science and technology under individualistic capitalist societies and in the hands of nationalistic forces are being perverted for the benefit of societal elites, serving to further dominate the masses and fueling the rivalrous passions that lead to total war. Damn, this is insanely deceptive and unfortunately genius. They're trying to say that capitalism leads to tyranny, but the truth is, because this man is a socialist, Marxism is eternally more, is way worse than capitalism. Capitalism has major flaws, yes, and it leads to all types of tyranny, but nowhere near as bad as it would be if we let these people put in a system of socialism. If we let these commies, aka communists, implement communism in this country, it's gonna get bad. I promise you this. This is slick talk right here is what it is. This is slick talk. Because all these people are Marxist. They've been trying to push Marxism. And they've already taken over the universities here in 2019. The Marxists have completely taken over the universities, all right? And they want us to think that we can revisit this communism thing. It's not good, y'all. That's just my opinion. But I'm telling you, I've got facts to back that up. Let's go look at history and see what communism has really done. Now, Tantalus, or The Future of Man, was the first contribution by the renowned philosopher, literary critic, and prolific author F.C.S. Schiller. Interesting name there, Schiller. It explicitly references eugenics And of course it does. It's called The Future of Man. You see the titles, y'all? Sorry. It explicitly references eugenics and advocates for the eugenic institutions and policies throughout society to correct the cumulative effects of racial degeneration and reverse the dysgenic demographic trends resulting from the differential fertility of the inferior classes and huddled masses. Blah, 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 we don't want dark people. Man, that was a very articulate way of saying we don't want dark people. Listen to this. Wouldn't it be easier to say we don't want dark people than to say fucking policies throughout society to correct the cumulative effects of racial degeneration and reverse the dysgenic demographic trends resulting from the differential fertility of the inferior classes and shut the fuck up. You want to get rid of dark people. We're keeping it real today. Born in Holstein, Germany, he referred to himself as a humanist. He is one of the founding members of the Eugenics Education Society and was a prolific reviewer of eugenic-themed works for the Eugenics Review. Here, he follows in the footsteps of the early eugenically intensive titles in the series, notably J.B.S. Haldane's Daedalus, or Daedalus, however you say it, Bertrand Russell's Icarus, and F.G. Cruikshank's The Mongol in Our Midst. Now listen to that title, The Mongol in Our Midst. Tell me that's not eugenics. Just from the title, y'all. Okay? Now, here we go. 1924, U.S. President Calvin Coolidge signs the Johnson-Reeds Act, which included the National Origins Act and the Asian Exclusion Act, into federal law. It severely curtailed immigration from East Asian, Eastern European, and Southern European countries by imposing a system of quotas that limiting the total number of immigrants to 2% of the number of people originating in a given country who were living in the U.S. in 1890. Once enacted, the law permitted the United States to favor immigrants from Northern European countries, in line with the philosophy of eugenicist Madison Grant in his influential 1916 book, The Passing of the Great Race. Okay? So, like I said, when they want some immigrants in but not others, when I make statements like that in regards to this wall they're putting up by Mexico, and I say things like they just want dark people out, but they will let people from Northern Europe all day, this is black and white proof of that. Go read the Johnson-Reeds Act and tell me that I'm just making this shit up. This isn't just some random theory I got, y'all. I'm basing it on facts. Basing this shit on facts. See, this is what research will do for you. See, this is the reason why people struggle so hard with topics until they actually do the research. The research speaks for itself. Okay? Once you do the research, it's a whole nother world. It's like having a 2-year-old debate a 40-year-old. The 2-year-old being someone who isn't privy to research, and the 40-year-old being someone who's well-versed in the research. This is why you don't stand a chance. You got to do the research. All right, March 20, 1924. Virginia passes the Racial Integrity Act on the same day as the Eugenical Sterilization Act. It defined white persons as those who had no trace whatsoever of blood other than Caucasian, right? So you had to be a Caucasian to be a white person, which would totally exclude me, because I'm 0% Caucasian on my DNA test, for example. Not that the Ancestry.com isn't tainted because of who owns it, but let's move it on. Defined white persons as those who had no trace whatsoever of blood other than Caucasian, or had 1/16 or less American Indian blood and no other non-Caucasian blood. The law was a state-level attempt to protect whiteness, and it prohibited interracial marriages. According to the law, marriage licenses could not be granted until both individuals proved themselves to be of the same race, pure white or colored. Now you see where that colored thing comes from in terms of legality. Anyone who did not fit the definition of white. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to say something, all right? Because this needs to be clarified. Now, these are conversations that should be going on, though. Okay, we do need to get to the bottom of all this and figure it out. But what we don't need is this entire conversation being underground and being implemented by only one group of people. We all need to talk about this openly and figure this out. Should there be sovereign separate nations with pure races? Should we all mix into one homogenized race? These are actually very valid conversations and questions. Very, very valid. Okay? It's not racist to have those questions. What is racist is to implement your side of the conversation and make it law without even considering the other side. Okay? So the reason I'm making this point is the reason we need to identify and get rid of the eugenics movement is because many of the topics they discuss do need to be discussed, but they're not being discussed. They're underground. And what it does is it forces racism even more because let's say, for example, a person in today's day and time doesn't believe that races should mix. Okay? Let's say someone believes that. Unfortunately, they're going to be branded a racist. They're going to be branded this. They're going to be branded that. If we go back and unravel the difference between eugenics and a legitimate conversation, now we can properly have that conversation. What I'm saying is, right now the baby is being thrown out with the bathwater, so to speak, because this whole thing is underground. We need to talk about this openly and properly. Okay, it's very, very important. All right, more of this today and tomorrow series. Here we go with Hypatia or Hypatia. Topic of women today and their roles in the progressive future of tomorrow. The first of, are you starting to notice that progressivism comes from this Luciferian eugenic movement? The first of 2 volumes in 1925 on this theme was Lysistrata by prolific author and translator Anthony Lodovici, followed by a series partner, Hypatia or Women in Knowledge by Dora Russell. The first female author in the series and second wife of Icarus author Bertrand Russell, women's issues and their societal roles was a perennial problem in the male-dominated eugenics movement from the outset. But eugenics naturally attracted the involvement of many women in women's organizations. Really, naturally, you're the man's husband. Or sorry, you're the man's wife. All right? You're the man's wife. And he's got you doing PR out here to throw people off the scent. So as you can see, Women in the Knowledge, Miss Russell in this inspired little book sets forth the gospel of feminism in its most militant and revolutionary form. So, like, as you can see, feminism spawned from this eugenics movement in order to foment and help in a balancing way, in an equal way, fomenting eugenics. Here's Lysistrata or whatever. Lodovici was also an accomplished linguist, philosopher, and author, as noted on the title page, and was a renowned scholar of Friedrich Nietzsche. Ludovici's A Defense of Aristocracy, a textbook for Tories, established his political loyalty with the imperial elite. And this standpoint was to sharpen after the war as a reaction to the resurgence of participatory democracy and increasingly strident demands of feminists, socialists, and other interest groups pressing for more political power in the weakened post-war empire. Ludovici was also peripherally involved in the British eugenics movement, publishing many articles and several books on eugenically tinged issues in addition to Lysistrata, right? Now, look at the titles, y'all. Now you can see outright we're dealing with Luciferians. Who is Prometheus? Prometheus obviously is Lucifer, okay, who brought fire, which aka the allegory of knowledge, to human beings and got in trouble for it, right? Because the Luciferian agenda is one and the same with the eugenics agenda. Like I said, it's about refining the Superman. And before you can make a Superman out of humans, you have to refine humans into the pure race and drop off all the so-called lower level races and refine humans into one race and then use technology to take us even further. Okay, and that's what Metropolis is all about in that 1927 movie. Now, excuse me. Prometheus, or biology of the advancement of man. You see the theme? Marked the first contribution by an American to the Today and Tomorrow series of popular books. It explicitly references eugenics and offers some cautious, limited support, but Prometheus is one of the first works that would qualify as reform eugenics, as the term was later coined by Daniel Kevles and circulated by the wave of latter-day scholars following in the wake of Kevles in the name of eugenics in 87. All right? So, Jennings makes two very brief and quite literal allusions to the mythological character in the title, but his point of view is closer to watching gods rather than Haldane's enthusiastic admiration, and should be noted that Haldane eulogized Prometheus and his future role in a scientifically rationalized society in considerably greater detail than Jennings. So he is using the allegory of Lucifer and where Lucifer is going in the future, basically. This is insane. As you can see, this is Lucifer Publishing that did this, the Lucifer magazine. So you've got the light, the torch bearer. You see the pentagram? Although it's a right side up pentagram, which see, I'm going no notes for this presentation. So right side up, I think, is male, and upside down is female, or vice versa. So this magazine comes out of Chicago. So Lucifer is one and the same as Prometheus, the light bearer, knowledge bearer. He brought us knowledge. All right. So as you can see, Prometheus up there on the top. You see on the top right, that's in front of the Rockefeller Center. You see Prometheus right in the center of Ouroboros. And on the bottom right, Columbia. You got the Queen of Heaven, Semiramis. In Babylon, she was called Semiramis. In Egypt, she was called Isis. In Greece, and later on, she would be called Columbia and Sophia. Okay? Which means knowledge. So as you can see, Columbian pictures bearing the torch of Lucifer, the knowledge. In the middle, on the bottom, you see Baphomet, right? Which is what the Knights Templar worshipped, and it's what Freemasons worship once you become 33 degrees. And as you can see, he's got the pentagram on the head, this allegory. It's all out of allegory. It's a hermaphroditic duality. There's all types of references in there, but as you can see, the torch is on the head, which represents knowledge. And on the left, next to him, or her, I should say, because it's a hermaphroditic goat god, because it's in the house of Pan when we're under Saturn's rule. But that's a whole nother story. So you can see the torch. This is one of the so-called wonders that was destroyed, and you had to go through the gates. You got that torch of Lucifer. It's knowledge. It's the refinement of human beings to become God. And as it's written in the Bible, it even says, it makes a reference where Lucifer is saying, you can become God if you attain this knowledge. Eat this bite of the apple. It's philosophy. That's what these old religions are. That stuff isn't literal. It's philosophy. It's concepts. Just like the writings of Plato and all that, and Socrates, where people use it as a template to discuss philosophy. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the Luciferian philosophy. All right, let's go on. 1925. Callinicus is something of a one-off. A companion piece to Paris, The Future of War. All right. The pioneering British armored warfare theorist, Captain B.H. Littlehart, who greatly influenced German blitzkrieg advocates like Guderian and Rommel, Haldane was commissioned as a second lieutenant in August 1914 as a British infantry officer. After the introduction of gas warfare in April 1915 by the Germans under the direction of Fritz Haber, director of Kaiser Wilhelm's Institute for Physical Chemistry in Berlin-Dahlem, Haldane was remobilized for Britain's own chemical warfare program and was involved in testing and advising the army on both offensive weapons and defensive countermeasures. Makes the case for chemical weapons as a more humane, eugenic, and ultimately more effective and efficient means of prosecuting modern warfare. In this bold advocacy, Haldane was facing an uphill battle against the British press, who had propagandized against the godless Hun and poison gases in the fearful, scandalized public, and even his colleagues in the eugenics movement, who largely lamented modern warfare as dysgenic. All right, written by Coleman. This is written by Coleman. So again, my references are in red for those of y'all who haven't seen the other videos. Okay, this shows you that they're willing to use chemicals as warfare, which is, in my opinion, what they would do through the vaccines. All right. 1925 to the present. The Annals of Eugenics was founded in 1925 by the Francis Galton Laboratory for National Eugenics at the University of London. Initially edited by Carl Pearson, a noted mathematician. After World War II, the journal changed its names to the Annals of Human Genetics and still exists to this day. The Annals of Genetics, right? Protege of Francis Galton, in addition to holding the chair of eugenics at the University of London, Pearson took on editing the Annals. With Ethel M. Elderton, a woman well respected for her own scientific research. I have no faith in anything short of actual measurement of the rule of three, was used at the front of the journal by Pearson. It was drawn from Darwin to reinforce scientific nature of the journal. You see, they're still trying to back their shit up with this pseudoscience horse shit. God, this shit's ridiculous, y'all. Eugenics is the study of the agencies under social control that improve or impair the racial qualities of future generations, either physically or mentally. Right? The journal's goal was to devote its pages wholly to the scientific treatment of racial problems in man. The paper also sought to provide room for eugenic science to grow. The current journal, Annals of Human Genetics, is peer-reviewed, and it states its goal is to increase the understanding of the biology of human variation, both in disease and health. See, it's just they reworded it. The journal identifies its major topics as human genome variation, human population genetics, statistical genetics, genetics of common multifactorial disease and other complex traits, and QTLs and Mendelian disorders and their molecular pathology, aka eugenics. I'm laying it out, y'all. I'm exposing this shit. It should be undoubtable at this point that there is a eugenics agenda. For better or for worse, however you want to argue it, there's clearly a eugenics agenda, and clearly they're not going to fold up shop and go away like that. It's not happening. They're just renaming shit. The Idaho legislature passes their stuff to start sterilizing people. This legislation effectively made sterilizations compulsory because it gave the Eugenics Board the ability to override patients when consent was not given. How does that sound okay to anybody? It sounds all good until you're that one just standing before that board who arbitrarily says, sounds all good until that happens. Utah passing their horse shit. Minnesota passing their bullshit. All right. Now, 1926, we got more eugenics shit coming out through this Today and Tomorrow series. C.P. Blacker's Birth Control in the State, A Plea for the Forecast, was a very avant-garde when it appeared in the 26th, but only as a decade or so previously, this sort of public promotion of contraception would have been illegal. Okay? Contraception was still a controversial subject at this time, even within the Eugenics Society. Although all realized its eugenical potential to limit procreation of the less desirable classes, conservative elements of the society. So what I was going to say was conservative elements of society were still against it. So I left a line out there. In other words, what it's saying is, we still had some conservative people left in society, so we still had to be a little bit careful. Just like what's happened right now in 2019. For the better part of the decade, they have been turning this country into a Marxist country, okay? Now what's happening is conservatives have been forced underground, and it's creating a movement of conservatives. And so they still have to be careful with the laws they pass, but now that they've got so many Marxists in place, they're starting to get more brazen about it. Okay? Galatia. Now I put this picture, you can see Darwin's face right in there. All right? Galatia, or The Future of Darwinism, takes Jennings' agnosticism to the next level. Brain proclaims Darwin is the Newton of biology. Wait a minute, didn't he prove that his whole science was bullshit with his own children? Unfortunately, this movement is still going, and this is proof of it. I've been showing you proof of it the whole time. So, it is hardly possible to accept the current neo-Darwinian views on evolution without experiencing grave doubts concerning the rationality of the universe. Excuse me. Excuse me. He lays out the bare bones essential of neo-Darwinian hereditarian dogma. Here's that word, dogma, in a literary row, without using August Weismann's name, and then ask the rhetorical question, what conception of the forces at work in evolution does the theory imply? Okay. Now we're pushing on. Buck versus Bell. 274 U.S. Okay, 274, sorry. It's the United States Supreme Court ruling which upheld a Virginia law for sterilizing persons assessed as socially inadequate. The court based this decision on expert testimony from Arthur Estabrook, a physician with experience at the Eugenics Record Office in Cold Harbor Spring, New York. Estabrook did not reapply to IQ tests that Carrie had been given in the state home, stating instead that he had talked to Carrie sufficiently to arrive at his decision that she was feeble-minded. And let's not forget that Margaret Sanger wholeheartedly supported this. She admits it, and I quoted her directly out of PlannedParenthood.org. Again, not out of screwmargaretsanger.org or conservativechristians.org, from PlannedParenthood.org. Exposed her ass. Columbia, there's that word, Columbia, sticking with the theme, or The Future of Canada, was the second contribution by author George Godwin. Ultimately, the two conflicting civilizations will have to settle the matter which is to survive, white or yellow. Excuse me, white or yellow. Let me go back up, actually. His ambition was to amass money. So, if you see, he says, your Japanese has rooted objections to birth registration and birth control. All right? So, the Chinaman presents another angle to the problem. See, the problem is they want to get rid of all the other races. The Chinaman presents another angle to the problem. He is hardworking, honest, and inoffensive. His ambition to amass money and return to the celestial land of his ancestors. Now, that's what leads him to say, ultimately, the two conflicting civilizations will have to settle the matter of which is to survive, white or yellow. He's saying straight up that it's going to come down to a showdown between the white and yellow race. That should be extremely alarming to someone who is not white or yellow. Let's keep it real. To find out that this whole movement, the people that own and run Planned Parenthood, the people that run the vaccines, all these people believe there's going to be a showdown between white or yellow. Or should I say someone who contributed to that movement, to be more accurate. Now listen to this quote. I don't know if anybody watching this is what they call Native American, but this is going to piss you off, and it should. Quote, the red man, as we know, ultimately solved the problem he presented by drinking himself out of existence in the comfort of those spacious reservations that had been secured to him by those fine old Jesuit missionaries. End quote. Damn. That is fucking bullshit. You can't tell me that ain't no damn bullshit, y'all. Damn. Listen to this. He says, the red man, as we know, ultimately solved the problem he presented. He's saying they're a problem just by existing. And they're doing us a favor by wiping themselves out. Damn. Damn, man, I'm sorry, but that is... Oh, shit. I'm going to take a sip of water on that one. Damn, y'all. Now you know why they had no problem using schools to round up Native Americans in Canada and rip them away from their families against their will. This is real shit, y'all. We're not playing. I'm not playing with this shit. I told y'all I was exposing this agenda, and I'm doing it. That's what I'm doing. Now check it. Alberta passes the Sexual Sterilization Act. All right? It is the first Canadian eugenic sterilization law and is directed at individuals living in designated state institutions deemed to have undesirable traits. And it created a eugenics board. Surprise, surprise. I'm showing you documentation, by the way, on this stuff. This is the actual document. All right? I'm not going to go and reread stuff, but I put the stuff up there so that if you want to, you can come back and pause it and read it. Just like with stuff like this, if you want to come back and read the stuff that's in white, that's fine, but I'm sticking mainly to the stuff in purple, all right? Excuse me. So, 1928, Dr. John M. McGarren, who held a PhD in philosophy from the Queen's University and a PhD in psychology from the University of Leipzig, becomes the head of Alberta Eugenics Board. He formed under the Sexual Sterilization Act of Alberta, which passed into law in 1928, sterilized on a case-by-case basis, longest surviving member of the board. There he is. Mississippi passes their legislature, 683 sterilizations. Of the 683, 160 were performed on males, while 523 were performed on females. So much for your feminist movement. Guess we got the feminist movement promoting this eugenics. So it's all good as long as you're a woman that they want you to be. Damn. I'm going in today. North Carolina. North Carolina, stand up and take your beating today. Law specifically targeted mentally disabled individuals living in state institutions. However, this legislation was deemed unconstitutional because it lacked provisions for individuals to appeal sterilization orders. But another law in 1933 with such provisions went in, and it stayed active till 1973. It took until 1973 for North Carolina to take this shit down. And there's a sign right there. Eugenics Board. State action led to the sterilization by choice or coercion. That's an interesting way of putting it. Tell the truth. You forced a lot of people. Of over 7,600 people. 1933 to 1973. 40 years. 40 fucking years. All right. Here goes West Virginia. Provide for the asexualization or sterilization of inmates of state institutions. See, that's state. That's why I included state on my title screen of this presentation. Deemed to be undesirable. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I don't like the thought of a handful of people having the discretion to decide who's undesirable. That is crazy. That's crazy talk. Now look, no individuals involved in the sterilization process could be held civilly or criminally liable, according to that law. You mean to tell me you're comfortable with that too? Here goes Arizona. Individuals could be sterilized regardless if consent was given, so long as proper legal processes were followed and upheld. That is, if either the county Supreme Court or the state medical examiners board upheld the superintendent's assessment, which you know they are. Damn. See, this letter is to Major Leonard Darwin. Because remember, this is the Darwin family, so we haven't gotten to the other eugenics congress. And I'm going to show you how they even advertise their family stock as part of this movement, tying together evolution and eugenics once again. All right. 1931, German Federation for Population Betterment and Heredity merges with the German Society for Racial Hygiene. 1,300 members by 1933, and sought to establish eugenics as an area for scientific exploration. With the rise of the National Socialists, aka the Nazis, to Germany's government, this society was able to directly influence federal policy. See how this letter is written to Major Leonard Darwin? On behalf of the German Society for Race Hygiene, I have the honor of expressing our sincere thanks to the invitation which you sent to our society to take part in the future deliberations of the International Commission of Eugenics, and upon consideration for the matter of our committee, I beg to submit the following reply. The German Society for Racial Hygiene, on principle, prepared to take part in the work of International Commission of Eugenics, and I have appointed to represent our society in this case. Okay? Who is this writing this? I'm trying to remember who wrote this, if it's Sanger or who it was. Shit. All right, so I'm reading the actual letter. The German Society, however, expresses at the same time the distinct expectation that by the time when the conference of the International Commission begins, which conference, according to your communication, will also have Belgian and French members, the atrocious wrong which Belgium and France committed on the German people in the invasion of Ruhr, thereby violating the Treaty of Versailles with the other nations concerning the treaties of Versailles looking on, will be removed again in completely satisfactory way. Because at the present moment, behavior without any legal foundation of France and Belgium towards German fatherland and murders of other atrocities inflicted almost daily on our innocent and defenseless compatriots by the French and Belgian under order of tolerated other governments, make it impossible for any honor, loving and decent German to sit at the same table with representatives of the French and Belgian nations. See, they didn't want to sit with these French and Germans, hoping that these difficulties will soon be removed, at which present stand in the way of our harmonious cooperation of German representatives with the International Commission desired by us as well. I am with the assurance of my sincerest. So they're having a Congress with all these nations like Canada, America, Britain, Germany, France. But Germany's saying, "Oh, I don't know. I don't like the fact that the French and the French and Belgians are there." But this shows you that it was international. Again, this is still 2 years before Hitler would go into power. All right? And you can see that there was a network of eugenics founded in America and Canada. All right? We're approaching right now the third and final eugenics Congress, which was the biggest and baddest one that you must see. I might put some of it in this one. I might save some for later. Now, the legislature of Vermont passes their stuff. All right? Oklahoma passes their stuff. Now, let's just go right into this eugenics conference, and then what we're going to do is we're going to end this after this. All right? We're going to end this part 5 after this eugenics conference. All right? So, the Third International Exhibit of Eugenics, held on occasion of the Third International Congress of Eugenics, American Museum of Natural History, New York City, August 22nd, 1932. So you can see right there the family stock of George Washington, one of the many displays they had. Their displays got bigger and badder with each one. So there you can see that tree, which represents eugenics. And as you can see, it's got everything in it. Everything is involved with this. As you can see, family stock study, population study, genetics, anthropology, all these different things, all the different branches and roots of this eugenics movement. And this is a picture of some of their displays, all right? This is one of the displays right here, South African Negroes. All right? On the left here, you can see the actual display, and then I zoomed in and blew up a picture of it so you can see a little bit closer. The focus isn't that good, but you can see what's going on here. All right? The near kin of Theodore Roosevelt. And see, they're saying, look at this amazing inheritance. Look at this family stock. Eugenics at its core, clearly. A decade of progress in eugenics. The scientific papers of the Third International Congress of Eugenics. Now, I've got several things right directly out of this, okay? We've got table of contents. Now, I didn't put the whole book up, but I would suggest getting this book if you're interested in eugenics. And as you can see, you got the great deity of America, American eugenics, Charles Davenport, who was president of this Third Congress, right? Now, the officers of the Third International Congress of Eugenics wish hereby to record their appreciation of the generous action of the Carnegie Institution of Washington in making a grant of $1,100 towards the expense of publishing these proceedings. Our heartiest thanks are herewith extended to the institution, proving right there that Carnegie is helping to fund this. All right? Now, in the middle there is just another picture showing the display, this amazing Congress. Over here on the right, see, now I'm not going to read all this stuff. I put it up so that if you want to, you can pause it and go back and read this stuff. But again, there's so much going on with this eugenics agenda. I'm on like my 5th hour right now doing this. All right, so I'm not going to go and read everything. But I will say right here at the top, eugenics is a science which studies the inborn qualities, physical, mental, and spiritual in man, with a view of their improvement, all right? Now, as you can see, you got Charles Darwin and Sir Francis Galton. They are deified in this religious movement of eugenics and evolution, aka the white supremacist movement. We got to keep it real, because there's no way you watch my whole eugenics series and aren't starting to comprehend what I mean by racism, all right? Now look at this. Charles Robert Darwin, master demonstrator of organic evolution. See, he's being hailed as a deity for this in this eugenics congress for this movement. And they usually see at the bottom, origin of the species, plants and animals under domestication, descent of man. That was a big one. Now look at Francis Galton. Let's see what it says actually about Darwin. Darwin demonstrated the close parallels between man's actual improvement of domestic plants and animals and the possible improvement in human family stocks. He believed that the most substantial advance in human progress would be made when man appreciated that he could, to a limited degree, control his own future racial evolution. You see, he's deified in this, showing you that horse shit goes hand in hand with this horse shit. Straight up. And I'm about to absolutely put the nail in the coffin here in a minute on that. All right? Founder of the science of eugenics. Galton coordinated the facts of organic evolution in those agencies which work in human society to influence migration, mate selection, and a differential fecundity. He thus made these subjects into a basic science and proved their practical use in human breed betterment. He didn't prove shit. All they proved is that it's pseudoscience. Author of Hereditary Genius, Englishmen of Science, Their Nature and Nurture, Inquiries in the Human Faculty, Natural Inheritance, Probability, the Foundation of Eugenics. All right? You see? Let's keep it going. Now, the nail in the coffin. This is one of the things they proudly displayed. All right? Pedigree of the Galton, Darwin, Wedgwood family. There it is right there. Look at what the caption says. A group of closely related family stocks characterized by outstanding capacities in philosophy, science, and art. They said outstanding capacities in philosophy, science, and art. Even though it was well proven that the science of Galton and Darwin are false. It's false bullshit to promote their agenda. Now here you see clearly, not only is the Galtons and the Darwins responsible for this movement, they're bragging about their family stock as proof of the movement that they're trying to prove. Nail in the coffin. Nail in the fucking coffin right here. And why don't you tell the truth about what happened to all of Charles Darwin's kids? That's not something to brag about. Right? And here you see, they got the family stock of George Washington, the Abraham Lincoln family stock study, the near kin of Theodore Roosevelt. You see, they're trying to build a dynasty, you guys. Do you not see this? Do you not see this? When people tell you that there's a system of racism set up and that we need to dismantle it and that people are complicit in it, we are. We need to dismantle this. Look at this, the Edison family, another deity in this movement. Analysis of the inborn traits of the Edison family stock, exhibited by Harry Laughlin, Eugenics Record Office, Cold Spring Harbor, New York. There you go. Another deity in this movement. Okay? Like I said, I'm showing you all this conference, and then I'm going to finish this video because we're approaching an hour now. Got the Maya Indians in the Yucatan. Got the Jamaica Negroes. All right? Anthropometric studies of Indians, Maya Indians, Yucatan, Mexico, Jamaica Negroes, British West Indies. Distribution of statures and cephalic indices among North American Indians. See, Carnegie Institution, because they helped fund that study. You see? This is a real thing. Eugenics is a real thing, y'all. This isn't some random fool writing a book. This is a movement, aka an agenda. Clearly an agenda. The pure sire method of race assimilation in North America. They're teaching people how to breed people. Now, anti-miscegenation laws of several states, you see, that was saying that you can't intermix, right? Migration of Negroes. Look at in the middle. They got a straight up chart showing the migration of Negroes. Oh, the Negroes are coming over here. Let me live over here. Let's keep it real, y'all. We're not playing games today. We're not sugarcoating nothing. Types of body build. This is eugenics movement, y'all. Don't tell me it's not. More charts. You see Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, who ran Weimar Germany, who safeguarded and created the movement of the LGBT in 1920s Berlin. Excuse me, sorry. And as you can see eugenics in Berlin. The creator of the LGBT movement was doing studies on black folks from New Guinea and West Africa in what they called human zoos in Germany. And he's the one that started the LGBT movement and wrote their constitution at their second Congress. Number 4 in the LGBT Constitution is the race betterment by the application of eugenics. We're playing no games today. Told you I'm not playing no games with this shit. Mental disorders in twins, so that you know how to stay away from twins. You see, all this is learning how humans breed, y'all. You can't tell me it's not. This is a proposed census card. Now, let me look ahead. 1, 2. Okay, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to finish this Congress. A proposed census card. This is what it would have looked like here. See? Place of abode. And you would have to apply to have kids. I know we make jokes about that. But if we are going to do that, it needs to be public and not hidden. Race descent. American statesmen. You see? Members of the United States Senate of the 69th Congress. English, Scotch, English, Scotch, Scotch, English, English, Irish, German, Swedish, Scotch, German, French, French, German. You see, you might not think about race, but some people clearly do. Do you not get that? Look at this. Some people really do think about this shit, y'all. Look, inventiveness by racial stock in the United States. See how inventive people. Let's see who they claim is on the bottom. African. I'm not going to lie. I haven't even looked at this chart until right now. I posted all 3 of these. But this chart, I didn't even think to look at it. But at the very bottom, they got Latin American and African. You mean to tell me that African and Latin Americans are really this less creative, less inventive? That is bullshit. Look what it says. Study of the old world race descent of 7,300 persons. So they tested 7,000 people. This is total bullshit. It's a controlled study. Really? Of course, they hated Polish and Belgians too. They hated Italians. They hated Irish even at some point. This is actually kind of interesting. I'm going to have to take some time on this later on. And look at this. Race descent of the population of the United States. Look at the poor English are losing their fucking blood. You see? Don't tell me that people don't think about race. Some people think about this shit, y'all. Not only do they think about it, they got a whole movement trying to exterminate people that they don't want. Do you understand that? This is the historical and legal development of eugenical sterilization. So this shows the evolution of eugenical sterilization, exactly like I said it was. You see? This ain't a game. This ain't no damn game. Population turnover in Hawaii. Kaiser Wilhelm. Bastards. You got Chinese, European, and Polynesian bastards. It's just different studies on human beings, y'all. See this? Specialized test for the sense of elegance. This is crazy shit, y'all. This is the conference, the Congress right here. This is a fold-out picture in that book. You see? I'm going to zoom in, just in case anybody wants to see this. You know what I mean? American Museum of Natural History. You see, this ain't a game, y'all. This isn't some random-ass fool with random-ass redneck in his house saying prejudiced things. This is a system that we stand on right now. Right now, we stand on the backs of this. You see all these shoulders? Hold on, let me say this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to keep it real today. You see all these heads and shoulders? Do you see it? Do you see the shoulders? I know that sounds silly, but do you see them? We are standing on those shoulders, y'all. You see, this ain't CNN, CBS, y'all. You ain't going to get this at school. You will never get what I'm telling you at school. We are standing on their shoulders. Time to stand down. Okay? It's time to stand down. As you can see, the honorary president was damn Leonard Darwin. All right? That's the appendix if you want to come back and look at it. All right? We need to stand down off of the shoulders and kick these motherfuckers in their chest and send them packing. Because we are complicit in this. I don't care who you are. You're complicit. If you're complicit in eugenics, you're complicit in racism. That's my opinion. Now, when we start this next thing, we're going in on Tuskegee. Now, since I'm in the mood of keeping it real, I cringe when I see a dark-skinned man sticking his arm out for a Caucasian to prick him with a damn needle. I'm going to show you why you should cringe when you see that. This should never happen. This shouldn't happen. This is the Tuskegee experiment. We will be going in on that when we start the next one. Thank you for sticking through this. This has been part 5. Part 6 will start with Tuskegee. We're damn sure not skipping over Tuskegee. There's many things that I regret that I didn't put in this presentation. I'm not skipping over Tuskegee. All right? Thank you guys. See you on the next one, part 6.